narrative.
You know that moment when someone disrespects you so badly that everything becomes crystal clear? That happened to me 3 weeks ago at what was supposed to be a nice dinner with my wife and her so-called best friend. We were at this upscale steakhouse downtown. My wife had insisted we take her friend out to celebrate his promotion. This guy had always rubbed me the wrong way, always finding excuses to text her, always needing her help with something, always making these subtle comments about how lucky she was to have such an understanding husband when he came around. But that night, he crossed every line imaginable. We're halfway through our meal when this guy looks directly at me and says, "You know, she really deserves better than what she's getting as a husband." Just like that. No warning, no context, nothing. He said it with this smirk like he was doing everyone a favor by pointing out the obvious. The restaurant went quiet around our table. My wife's fork stopped midway to her mouth. I could feel other diners glancing over. I set down my knife and looked at him calmly. That's interesting coming from someone who's been divorced twice and can't keep a relationship longer than 6 months. But hey, thanks for the marriage advice from the expert. His face turned red, but I wasn't done. And since we're sharing observations, she deserves a friend who doesn't spend every conversation trying to undermine her marriage. But what do I know? I'm just the guy who's actually committed to her. The silence stretched for about 10 seconds before my wife exploded. "How dare you?" She slammed her hand on the table, making the water glasses jump. "You will apologize to him right now, or we are done." Done. I looked at her, then at him smirking behind her shoulder, then back at her. The audacity was breathtaking. Her friend had just publicly humiliated me, questioned my worth as a husband in front of strangers, and she wanted me to apologize to him? I smiled. Not a warm smile. The kind of smile you give when someone shows you exactly who they really are. "No," I said simply. "What do you mean no?" Her voice was getting louder. Other tables were definitely staring now. "I mean no. I won't apologize for defending myself against someone who just disrespected me at our dinner table. If that's your line in the sand, then I guess we know where we both stand." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. This wasn't how our fights usually went. Usually I try to de-escalate, smooth things over, find some middle ground. Not this time. Her friend leaned forward with this satisfied grin. "See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. A real husband would prioritize his wife's feelings over his ego." I laughed, actually laughed out loud. A real friend wouldn't create drama between married couples for his own entertainment. But you're right about one thing. This is exactly what you're talking about. The question is why my wife's friend seems so invested in ending her marriage. That wiped the smirk off his face pretty quickly. My wife gathered her purse with shaking hands. "I can't believe you're being like this. After everything we've built together. Over him. This isn't about him," I said, standing up and dropping cash on the table for our meal. "This is about respect. Something you seem to have forgotten I deserve too." She followed me to the parking lot, yelling the whole way, "You're being ridiculous. He's my oldest friend, and I'm your husband. Or at least I thought I was until you made it clear whose side you're on." We drove home in complete silence. The kind of silence that feels like a countdown to something ending. When we got inside, she went straight to the bedroom and started packing a bag. "I need time to think. This isn't the man I married." "You're right," I said from the doorway. "The man you married would have apologized for having self-respect. Take all the time you need." She paused, probably expecting me to back down, to say I didn't mean it. When I didn't, she zipped up her bag with more force than necessary. "I'll be staying with him, just until you come to your senses and realize how childish you're being." There it was, the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. She wasn't going to her sister's house or her mother's house or any of her female friends. She was going straight to the guy who had just humiliated me and told me she deserved better. "Perfect," I said. "That'll make things much clearer for both of us." She waited by the door for almost a full minute, bag in hand, probably expecting me to chase after her, to beg her not to go, to promise I'd apologize to her precious friend. Instead, I walked to the kitchen and opened a beer. "This is really how you want to handle this," she called out. "This is how you chose to handle this the moment you demanded I apologize for refusing to be disrespected." I called back. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. I sat in my kitchen, drinking my beer, and for the first time in months, maybe years, everything felt perfectly clear. My wife had just chosen her male friend over her husband and moved in with him to punish me for having a backbone. Game on. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before in our 8 years of marriage. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't even check if she'd tried to contact me. Instead, I called my brother, who's a lawyer. "You need to document everything," he said after I explained the situation. "Every text, every interaction. And honestly, if she's staying at another man's house, that's going to look terrible in divorce proceedings." "Divorce?" I said. I hadn't really. "Wake up," he cut me off. "She moved in with the guy who publicly humiliated you and demanded you apologize for defending yourself. What exactly are you hoping to reconcile here?" He was right. I'd been married so long I'd forgotten what having standards looked like. By noon, I had an appointment with his colleague who specialized in family law. By 3 p.m., I understood exactly how much trouble my wife had put herself in by moving in with her male friend during our marital crisis. "Document everything," the lawyer said. "Every text message, every social media post, every interaction. And whatever you do, don't leave the house. Possession matters." I drove home feeling like I was seeing my life clearly for the first time in years. How many dinners had we sat through where her friend made subtle digs at me? How many times had she taken his side over mine in small disagreements? How many red flags had I ignored because I wanted to be the understanding husband? My phone buzzed with a text from her. "I hope you're ready to have an adult conversation when you're done being stubborn." I stared at that message for a long moment. Even now, even after everything, she thought this was about me being stubborn. She genuinely believed I should apologize to the man who disrespected me. I typed back, "Take all the time you need to think things through. No rush." 3 minutes later, "That's it? That's all you have to say?" Me, "You said you needed space to think." "I'm respecting that." Her, "You're supposed to fight for us." There it was. The script she expected me to follow. Beg her to come back. Promise to change. Apologize to her friend. Play the role of the desperate husband who couldn't survive without her. Me, "I fought for us at dinner. You chose your friend. Choices have consequences." She didn't respond for hours. Around 5 p.m., I noticed my neighbor across the street working in her front yard. We'd always been friendly, exchanged pleasantries, but I'd never really paid attention to how attractive she was. She was maybe 30, worked as a nurse, lived alone since her divorce 2 years ago. She waved when she saw me checking the mail. "How's your wife?" "Haven't seen her car around." "She's visiting a friend," I said, taking some time to think about things. She nodded with this knowing look. "Sometimes thinking time is good. Helps people figure out what they really want." "Exactly," I said. "How about you? How's this single life treating you?" She laughed. "Better than the married life did, honestly. At least now when someone disrespects me, I don't have to pretend it's okay." We talked for 20 minutes. She was funny, confident, and made it very clear she found me attractive. When she mentioned making too much dinner for one person and asked if I'd like to join her sometime, I said yes without hesitation. "How about tomorrow night?" she said with a smile that made her intentions crystal clear. "Perfect," I said. "I'll bring the wine." That night, my phone lit up with messages from my wife. First anger, then bargaining, then threats. "Your silence is childish and cruel. We can work through this if you just admit you were wrong. He's only trying to look out for my happiness. If you don't apologize by tomorrow, I'm done pretending this marriage matters." I screenshotted every single message and forwarded them to my lawyer with a note. "This is what emotional manipulation looks like in writing." Then I responded with just one text. "I'm not the one who moved in with another man. But thanks for clarifying where your priorities are." The next evening, I was having dinner with my neighbor. Her name was Lisa, and she was everything my wife wasn't. Direct, honest, and refreshingly uncomplicated. She didn't play games or create drama. She just said what she meant. "So," she said over the second bottle of wine, "your wife is staying with her male best friend while you're home alone. And somehow you're the bad guy in this situation." According to her, yes. I should have apologized for being disrespected. Lisa shook her head. "My ex-husband used to pull similar crap. Always made me feel like I was crazy for having boundaries. Best thing I ever did was stop playing along with it." "How long were you married?" 7 years too long," she said with a laugh. "But hey, his loss became my gain. I learned what I actually deserve from a relationship." We moved to her living room after dinner. The conversation flowed naturally, and when she leaned in to kiss me, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. No drama, no games, no ultimatums. Just two adults who were attracted to each other acting on it. I stayed the night. The next morning, walking back to my house, my phone had 12 missed calls and 8 text messages from my wife. I read them while making coffee in my own kitchen. Where are you? Answer your phone. I'm trying to save our marriage and you're ignoring me. This is the last time I'm reaching out. Fine. Have it your way. Don't come crying to me when you realize what you've lost. I forwarded all of them to my lawyer and typed one response. You've made your choice. I've made mine. Take all the time you need. My wife thought she was teaching me a lesson by staying with her friend. She thought I'd panic, chase after her, beg her to come back. Instead, she'd given me the greatest gift possible. Time to remember who I used to be before I started accepting disrespect as the price of peace. And Lisa had reminded me what it felt like to be wanted by someone who didn't see my self-respect as a character flaw. 3 days later, the divorce papers were filed. My wife still had no idea what was coming. By the end of the first week, Lisa and I had settled into a routine that felt more natural than 8 years of marriage ever had. She'd come over after her shifts at the hospital, or I'd head to her place with takeout from whatever restaurant caught our fancy. There was no walking on eggshells, no wondering if I'd said the wrong thing, no analyzing every conversation for hidden meanings. Lisa was refreshingly straightforward. When she wanted something, she asked for it. When she didn't like something, she said so. Revolutionary concept, apparently. Your wife texted you again, she said, handing me my phone from the nightstand Saturday morning. We'd just finished breakfast in bed, something I'd never done in my marriage because my wife always complained about crumbs in the sheets. I glanced at the screen. I've been thinking a lot. We need to talk about fixing this mess you've created. Even her apologies sound like accusations, Lisa observed, reading over my shoulder. That's not an apology. That's her getting ready to explain why everything is my fault and how I need to fix it. Are you going to respond? Eventually, I set the phone aside and pulled her closer. But not today. The pattern continued for 2 weeks. My wife would send these carefully crafted messages designed to make me feel guilty for not chasing after her. Sometimes she'd try anger. Your silence is proving exactly what kind of husband you really are. Sometimes manipulation. I guess 8 years meant nothing to you. Sometimes false urgency. This is your last chance to save what we built together. I saved every single message. My lawyer was building quite the file. Meanwhile, Lisa and I were building something entirely different. She wasn't trying to change me or fix me or turn me into someone else's version of what a man should be. She liked me exactly as I was, including the parts my wife had spent years trying to reshape. You know what I love about you? Lisa said one evening as we cooked dinner together. You don't apologize for taking up space. My ex was always making himself smaller to keep everyone else comfortable. It was exhausting. My wife's friend called me arrogant for that same quality. Her friend sounds like an idiot. And honestly, a man who's threatened by another man's confidence usually has good reason to be. Tuesday night marked 3 weeks since my wife had stormed out. I was at Lisa's place when my phone rang with an unknown number. Don't answer it, Lisa said. We're having too good a time to let drama interrupt. But something told me I should. It was my wife's sister. She's been crying for 2 days, she said without preamble. Whatever fight you two had, just fix it. She misses you. Did she tell you what the fight was about? A pause. She said you embarrassed her friend at dinner and won't apologize. Interesting version of events. Did she mention that her friend told me she deserves a better husband? In public? And that she demanded I apologize to him for defending myself? Longer pause. That's not what she said happened. I'm sure it isn't. Did she also mention she's been living with this friend for 3 weeks? She said she needed space to think. At his apartment. With the man who disrespected me. While demanding I apologize to him. I let that sink in. Does that sound like someone who misses me? Or someone who's mad that her manipulation tactics aren't working? When her sister hung up without another word, I knew the truth was finally getting out. Lisa was watching me with concerned eyes. Everything okay? Better than okay. The story my wife's been telling her family is very different from reality. But the truth has a way of coming out. That night, my wife tried a new approach. Instead of demanding or manipulating, she sent what looked like a genuine message. I think I've been unfair to you. Can we please talk? I want to come home. I showed it to Lisa. What do you think? I think 3 weeks of living with her boyfriend didn't turn out the way she expected. He's not her boyfriend. Lisa gave me a look that said I was being naive. Honey, no woman moves in with a man who publicly humiliates her husband unless she's already emotionally invested in that man. And no man risks destroying someone's marriage unless he thinks he has a chance with the wife. She was right, of course. I'd been so focused on my wife's betrayal that I hadn't fully processed what her friend's motivations really were. So what happens when she comes back? Lisa asked. She's going to expect the old me. The one who apologized for having boundaries. The one who accepted disrespect to keep the peace. I pulled her closer. But that guy's gone. And honestly, I like who I'm becoming without him. Good, she said, kissing my neck. Because I like this version of you too. The next morning brought a barrage of texts from my wife. I'm coming home tomorrow. We're going to sit down like adults and fix this. I hope you've learned something from this separation. Things are going to be different when I get back. I read them while Lisa made coffee in my kitchen, wearing one of my shirts and nothing else. The contrast wasn't lost on me. My wife was still issuing demands and threats, while Lisa was simply sharing space with me without any drama or conditions. She's coming back tomorrow, I told Lisa. Are you nervous? No, I said, and realized I meant it. I'm actually curious to see who she thinks she's coming back to. My lawyer had called the day before. The papers were ready. All they needed was her signature. My wife thought she was coming home to the same dynamic, the same man who would eventually cave to her demands and apologize for having self-respect. She was about to discover just how wrong she was. I heard her car pull into the driveway at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday. I know because I was sitting in Lisa's living room across the street, watching through the window with a cup of coffee and zero anxiety about what was about to unfold. Lisa was getting ready for her evening shift at the hospital. You sure you don't want me to stick around for moral support? I'm good, I said, watching my wife get out of her car with the same overnight bag she'd left with 3 weeks ago. This conversation has been a long time coming. She looked exactly the same, but somehow smaller. Maybe it was just my perspective that had changed. Text me if you need backup, Lisa said, kissing me goodbye. And remember, you don't owe her anything, especially not an apology. I watched Lisa drive away, then settled in to observe what would happen next. My wife stood in the driveway for a full minute, staring at our house like she was gathering courage. Then she walked to the front door with the confident stride of someone who expected to be welcomed home. She used her key. I heard the front door open and close from across the street. Then I waited. 5 minutes later, she emerged from the house looking confused. She walked around to the backyard, probably checking if I was outside. Then she went back inside. My phone buzzed. Where are you? I'm home. I didn't respond immediately. Let her wonder. 10 minutes later. Your car is here, but you're not. Are you hiding from me? Still nothing from me. 15 minutes after that. This is ridiculous. I drove all the way back here to fix our marriage, and you're playing games. Now that was interesting. She drove back to fix our marriage. Not to discuss what happened. Not to apologize for choosing her friend over her husband. She was here to fix the mess I'd apparently created. Finally, I typed back, be there soon. I finished my coffee, took a shower at Lisa's place, and made sure I looked completely relaxed and unbothered. Then I walked across the street at my own pace, like a man who owned his space and wasn't about to be rushed by anyone. She was waiting in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch like she was ready to spring into action. She'd arranged herself carefully, I noticed. Hair perfect, makeup done, wearing the dress she knew I liked. This was a performance. Finally, she said when I walked in. We need to talk. Sure, I said, settling into my favorite chair instead of sitting next to her on the couch. How was your thinking time? Her eyes flashed with annoyance. She'd expected me to ask why she'd been gone so long, or tell her how much I'd missed her. It was enlightening. I realized some things about our relationship, such as how you've been taking me for granted, how you embarrassed me in front of my oldest friend, how your pride matters more to you than our marriage. She leaned forward like she was delivering a closing argument. But I'm willing to work past that if you're ready to acknowledge your mistakes. I almost laughed. After 3 weeks of living with another man, she was here to explain my mistakes to me. That's generous of you, I said. She brightened, probably thinking I was being sincere. I knew you'd come around once you had time to think. I know this separation was hard on you. I nodded noncommittally. So here's what I'm thinking, she continued, sliding into full negotiation mode. You apologize to my friend for what happened at dinner. Not because you have to, but because you want to show me that our marriage matters more than your ego. Then we put this whole mess behind us and start fresh. And what do you apologize for? The question seemed to catch her off guard. What do I need to apologize for? I'm the one who got embarrassed. I'm the one whose friend got attacked. You moved in with another man for 3 weeks, and you're asking what you need to apologize for. She waved her hand dismissively. I stayed with a friend while you worked through your issues. That's completely different. Is it? Of course it is. He's been my friend for years. Nothing happened between us. But you chose him over me. I chose to give you space to realize you were wrong. Her voice was rising now, the careful performance starting to crack. And clearly it worked because here we are, ready to move forward. I stood up. I'm going to get some air. This conversation is very enlightening. Where are you going? She followed me toward the door. We're not done talking about this. You're right, I said, opening the front door. We're definitely not done. I walked outside, leaving her standing in the doorway looking confused and frustrated. The old me would have stayed inside, let her lecture me about my mistakes, eventually apologized just to end the fight. But the old me had been gone for 3 weeks now. I crossed the street toward Lisa's house, feeling my wife's eyes on me the entire time. This wasn't random. This was calculated. I wanted her to see exactly where I was going and what that meant. Lisa's car wasn't in the driveway yet, but I had a key. I let myself in and settled on her couch with a beer, knowing my wife was watching from across the street. My phone started buzzing immediately. What are you doing over there? Come home right now. You're being childish. This isn't how you handle marriage problems. I took a long drink of my beer and typed back. You spent 3 weeks at another man's house. I'm spending 1 evening at another woman's house. Fair is fair. The phone started ringing. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined again. Then the front door of Lisa's house opened and my wife stormed in without knocking. Are you out of your mind? She shouted. You can't just break into someone's house. I looked up from the couch calmly. I have a key. Lisa gave it to me last week. The color drained from her face as the implications hit her. Last week, her voice was barely a whisper. 3 weeks ago, you moved in with your friend to teach me a lesson about respect. Turns out, I learned something completely different than what you intended. She stood frozen in the doorway, finally understanding that the conversation she'd planned wasn't the conversation we were having. The silence in Lisa's living room stretched for what felt like an eternity. My wife stood in the doorway, her perfect performance completely shattered, staring at me like I was a stranger. You have a key, she repeated slowly, like she was trying to process a foreign language. I do. Lisa thought it made sense since I've been spending most of my evenings here. I took another sip of beer, watching her face cycle through confusion, anger, and something that might have been panic. Most of your evenings? Her voice cracked slightly. Well, you were having your thinking time with your friend. I figured I'd have my own thinking time. Turns out Lisa is excellent company. Very refreshing, actually. My wife stepped fully into the room, closing the door behind her like she was afraid the neighbors might hear. How long has this been going on? How long has what been going on? Don't play games with me. She was shouting now, all pretense of calm negotiation gone. How long have you been with her? Since the day after you moved in with your boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, and Lisa's not my girlfriend. She's just someone who appreciates me exactly as I am. No demands for apologies. No ultimatums. No public humiliation. Funny how that works. She started pacing, her heels clicking on Lisa's hardwood floors. This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown. 3 weeks ago, you were a devoted husband, and now you're here. I'm what? Happy? Respected? Valued? I stood up, setting my beer on the coffee table. Yeah, it's been quite the transformation. You can't be serious about this. About her. She gestured around Lisa's living room like it was contaminated. She's just a rebound. A way to hurt me for leaving. You know what's interesting? You assume everything I do is about you. Lisa and I didn't happen because of you. We happened despite you. That hit her like a physical blow. She actually staggered backward. I want her out of the picture. Now, we're going home, and we're going to work through this like adults. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You want her out of the picture? You, who spent 3 weeks living with another man, want to dictate who I can spend time with. That's different, and you know it. How? Explain to me exactly how it's different. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Because he's just a friend. And we're married. We're married, I corrected. Past tense. The color drained from her face completely. What do you mean we're? I mean the woman who walked out of our house 3 weeks ago demanding I apologize for having self-respect isn't the same woman who married me 8 years ago. That woman wouldn't have moved in with another man to punish her husband for refusing to be humiliated. I was trying to save our marriage by threatening to end it, by choosing another man over your husband, by living in his house while demanding I beg for your forgiveness. I shook my head. That's not saving a marriage. That's ending one. She was crying now, mascara starting to run. You don't mean that. You're angry, but you don't mean that. I've never been clearer about anything in my life. The front door opened and Lisa walked in, still in her scrubs from the hospital. She took in the scene with one glance. My wife crying in her living room. Me standing calmly with a beer, the obvious tension crackling between us. Should I come back later? Lisa asked, not seeming particularly concerned about finding my wife in her house. No, I said. We were just finishing up. My wife whirled around to face Lisa. You did this. You destroyed my marriage. Lisa looked genuinely puzzled. I'm sorry, who are you? The casual dismissal was perfect. My wife was sputtering with rage, and Lisa was treating her like a mild inconvenience. I'm his wife. Oh, Lisa said, hanging up her keys. The one who's been living with another man for 3 weeks? I heard about you. It wasn't like that, wasn't it? Lisa looked at me. Didn't she move in with the guy who publicly disrespected you and then demand you apologize to him? That's exactly what happened. Lisa nodded like this confirmed everything she needed to know. Well, his loss was definitely my gain. He's an incredible man when he's not being taken for granted. My wife's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She'd come here expecting to find me broken and desperate, ready to accept her terms for reconciliation. Instead, she'd walked into a situation where she was clearly the outsider, the one who'd made the wrong choices. This isn't over, she said finally, her voice shaking with fury. You think you can just replace me? Replace 8 years of marriage with some random woman? I'm not replacing anything, I said calmly. You ended our marriage when you chose your friend over your husband. I'm just moving forward with my life. I'm not signing any divorce papers. You don't have to. I can get a divorce without your signature. It just takes a little longer. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. My lawyer explained the whole process. Abandonment of the marital home to live with another man is pretty compelling evidence. She stared at the phone like it was a snake about to bite her. You've been planning this, she whispered. This whole time, while I was trying to fix things, you've been planning to leave me. No, I said. You planned this the moment you walked out of our house to move in with your boyfriend. I just accepted it. Lisa cleared her throat gently. I hate to interrupt, but I have an early shift tomorrow and would really like to shower and unwind in my own home. The dismissal was clear. My wife looked between us, finally understanding that she had no power here, no leverage, no way to control the situation. Fine, she said, walking toward the door. But when you realize what a mistake you're making, don't come crawling back to me. I almost felt sorry for her then. Even now, even after everything, she still thought this was about me making a mistake. I won't, I said simply. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. Lisa looked at me with raised eyebrows. Well, that was intense. You okay? Better than I've been in years, I said, and meant it completely. Tomorrow would bring the final confrontation. But tonight, I was exactly where I wanted to be. I woke up the next morning in Lisa's bed to the sound of someone pounding on her front door. It was 7 a.m., and Lisa had already left for her early shift. The pounding continued, urgent and demanding. I pulled on my clothes and opened the door to find my wife standing there, phone in hand, looking like she'd been awake all night. Her hair was disheveled, makeup smeared, wearing the same dress from yesterday. I need you to repeat what you said yesterday, she said without preamble. About sleeping with her. Say it again so I can record it. I leaned against the doorframe, completely relaxed. Good morning to you too. Coffee. I'm not playing around. Say it again. Tell me about your affair so I can use it in court. Affair? I laughed. There's no affair. You moved out 3 weeks ago. I'm a single man dating a single woman. That's called moving on with my life. She held up her phone, recording. Just say it. Say you've been sleeping with her. Why would I do that? Because you said it yesterday. You admitted it. I admitted that I've been spending time with someone who values me. Someone who doesn't demand I apologize for having self-respect. Someone who doesn't move in with other men when she doesn't get her way. Her hands were shaking as she held the phone. This is evidence. Evidence of adultery. Evidence of what? That after you abandoned our home to live with another man, I started dating? Good luck with that strategy. She lowered the phone, realizing her plan wasn't working. You're destroying everything we built together. No, sweetheart. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. You destroyed it 3 weeks ago. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything we've been through. After 8 years of marriage. 8 years where I consistently put your feelings above my own dignity. 8 years where I apologized for things that weren't my fault to keep the peace. 8 years where I slowly became smaller and smaller so you could feel bigger and bigger. I looked directly at her. Those 8 years taught me exactly what I don't want in a relationship. You're having a midlife crisis or something. This isn't you. You're right. The me you knew was someone who would have apologized to your friend for being disrespected. The me you knew would have begged you to come home instead of filing divorce papers. The me you knew would have spent 3 weeks miserable and alone while you played house with another man. I smiled. Thank God that guy is gone. She started crying again, but this time it felt different. Not manipulative tears designed to make me feel guilty, but genuine grief for something she was finally understanding was really over. I want to come home, she whispered. This isn't your home anymore. It's our house. It's my house. You abandoned it, remember? To go live with your boyfriend and punish me for having boundaries. Stop calling him my boyfriend. Then what would you call a man you move in with after he publicly humiliates your husband? What would you call someone you choose over your marriage? She couldn't answer that. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to get a lawyer. You're going to sign the divorce papers. And you're going to accept that your choices have consequences. What if I don't sign? Then you'll be divorced anyway, just with less money and more public humiliation when everything comes out in court. Your choice. I started walking back toward my house across the street. She followed me, still crying. Where are you going? Home. To get ready for work. You know, that thing adults do when they're not living off other people while throwing tantrums. I wasn't living off him. I stopped walking and turned around. Really? Who paid for your food? Your gas? Your phone bill? Did you contribute anything to his household while you were there teaching me a lesson? Her silence answered that question. So you used him financially while using me emotionally, and somehow I'm the villain in this story? I shook my head. The lack of self-awareness is staggering. I reached my front door and pulled out my keys. She was still standing in my driveway, looking lost. Don't make this harder than it has to be, I said, not unkindly. You made your choice 3 weeks ago. Now live with it. What about your neighbor? Is that just revenge? Lisa isn't revenge. Lisa is what happens when a man remembers what it feels like to be respected and appreciated. Lisa is what happens when someone doesn't spend every day trying to change who you are. I opened my door. Lisa is what you could have been if you'd chosen your husband over your friend. I'm not signing anything. That's your right. But understand this, whether you sign or not, we're done. The only question is whether you want to walk away with some dignity intact or drag this out until everyone knows exactly why your marriage ended. I went inside and closed the door. Through the window, I watched her stand in my driveway for another 10 minutes, phone pressed to her ear, probably calling her friend or her sister or her lawyer, trying to find someone who would tell her she was right, that I was wrong, that this was all fixable if I would just apologize and come to my senses. But some things can't be unfixed. Some words can't be taken back. Some choices can't be undone. She'd gambled that I needed her more than she needed to respect me. She'd bet everything on my willingness to accept humiliation to preserve our marriage. She'd lost. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. How did the morning drama go? I typed back, better than expected. Free for dinner tonight. Her response came immediately, always. Your place or mine? I looked out the window. My wife's car was gone. Mine, I typed. I have a feeling it's going to be a very peaceful evening. For the first time in 8 years, I was looking forward to coming home to my own house. A house where I was respected, valued, and never asked to apologize for being a man who wouldn't accept disrespect. Some lessons are expensive, but some freedoms are priceless. I'd learned the difference.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.